Hey guys, Anti-Figure Therapy here today, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Cerevo Dominator. So, I'm trying not to keep this as a review in a sense, just because there's so many other reviews out there which do a really great job of just getting to the point and talking about the gimmicks and all sorts of different things about this like machine, I guess. So basically all I want to do is just give kind of like a first impression, like overall look about it. So this is the Cerevo Dominator from Psychopass. This was released in 2016 for a whopping total of 89,000 yen before taxes. So that roughly translates to about $900 on the high end. There is a lower end version of it, which roughly is about $100 less for a good reason, I guess. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this really quick. So the box itself is really nice. It's in this nice matte finish. There's some shiny text here and there, and basically there's a lot of interesting styling on the box, and that is because it is based off the machine that carries the Dominators around. So just like in the anime, let's go ahead and whoosh this open and take a look at the inside. So the inside features the Dominator itself. This is the wrapping that came with it. I just keep it in here just in case. But it fits the gun perfectly. There is this little flap that'll open and basically has all the other accessories that it comes with, which is basically just the charger, which is this right here. It looks a lot like an old like camera battery, I guess. But and then the battery itself, which I've already installed in the machine just for the sake of timing. But yeah, so basically let's go ahead and talk about the gun. So, funny story, basically the reason why I purchased the gun in the first place was because I was making my own Dominator, and basically I just wanted the measurements, and at some point I was just like, oh, should I get the replica? And then a lot of people were saying, just, if you have the budget, I guess, just go for the Cerevo one. And also, in the long run, the Cerevo one is the best Dominator. And I definitely stand by that statement, hands down. So, looking at it right now, it looks like a very nice piece. Honestly, there's a ton of detail on it. It has a bunch of metal rivets all over it. The gun itself is really well detailed. The one I have right here is actually a special edition version. So there is this, the difference being that there's a synthetic ruby in the middle of this piece of machined aluminum, which is a little sharp, so when you rub your finger against it, it kind of catches. But and then there's a piece of rosewood, or two pieces of rosewood on each side, and oh, it went off. So alright, so that happened. But yeah, so basically there's that. And that's basically the only difference between the special edition one and the normal edition one. Now, the gun itself measures around 14 inches, or around 37 centimeters, 36.5 centimeters. But that's good to know just in terms of people who are going to kind of model the gun. Now, of course, there are different tiers for if you want a Dominator. There is the very low end, which is the Taito Dominator, which should realistically run you around $30 max. A lot of people are trying to sell it for 50 to 100, but it's not really worth that in the long run, or in general. It does a very good job of replicating the replica because it's based off of the concept art more so than the anime, it being that there are these markings on it, which are kind of like these ruler markings across the sides of it. And yeah, so there's that. You can find it on Mandarake for like around 1,000 yen, so pretty cheap, like $10, and then shipping will probably cost you like another $10 to $12. So it's definitely within the budget right there. And that is a non-functioning, just kind of piece of plastic gun with a spring trigger handle. So that is definitely a nice little touch. Now, moving along that scale, I guess. Oh no, that's the Sega one actually. Sorry, my bad. So that was actually the Sega one. Then there's the Taito Kuji one, which is the like lottery one, and basically there are two versions of that. So they both make sound, and what's cool about that one is it has sound, and I think it has lights, but I forget. But I don't think it has lights actually. But the only thing is the sound, and it has two different variations. So you have the regular non-lethal paralyzer. and then you have one that is the transformed lethal eliminator mode, and they both make their respective sounds. Now, what's interesting about that is it's actually at a different scale. So it's at I think it's at a 1/2 scale. It's a little weird because it's like, oh, at that point, why not just put in the extra money to go at a full scale? You know what I mean? But those will usually run you from around like $100 to like 150, just because they are Kuji stuff and they are like prize in a sense. And then the next tier up would be the Proplica, which should realistically run you around 150 to 200 max. A lot of them are trying to sell for 300. I would recommend just at that point, if you're going to go for 300, just continue saving up and get the Cerevo one. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, there are some paint scratch issues. That is just across the board. It's happening to everyone. So yeah. Also, another big thing is that Cerevo actually discontinued the Dominator. So if you go on their website, it'll say last order opportunity coming in spring. That's a lie. If you click that, it'll just send you to the page and basically say, yeah, it's all sold out. Now, I have this theory that basically, because it's funny because I was actually looking to get one from Cerevo itself because they were actually selling B-grade Dominators, because some of them that just have like paint errors or whatnot, but the item itself is totally functioning, and it comes with an extra battery, so it's a pretty good value in that sense, and they don't charge you tax and no free shipping, so it was a pretty like solid value. But then I kind of held off on it for like a day or two, and then when I went back to it, basically they sold out of everything, which was a little sketchy. And then I realized that they made a note on their blog saying how that they wanted to, instead of selling them, they wanted to rent them out, and I assumed they just said like screw it, and then just like take all the stock and just make it into rental stock. That way when they go to shows, they can kind of like rent it out to people. But I just assume that's like a theory that I have. But so realistically now, this is a discontinued item. It'll only get harder to find from here. So I definitely recommend keeping an eye on Mandarake or any of the secondhand shops in Japan, and maybe even America. In America, I've seen them go for as low as like 500 to 600. But on the high end, right now, it's going for around 1,000. So it definitely is an expensive thing. And honestly, probably the most I'd ever spent on something. This was just more of a thing that I thought would be really interesting to kind of talk about, and also just a really interesting piece to own. And also, the person who sold it to me actually messed up, and they sent me the special edition one. So, hey, whatever, man. Okay, so yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about the gun. So when it powers on, you have to put your hand on this section, and it'll kind of run through the whole start sequence. Now, what's interesting about the gun itself is it was actually a brand new set of sounds was recorded by, shoot, I'm forgetting her name, but I think it's Nadako, no. I know her first name is Norika, but I think it's, oh yeah, I forget that. But basically, the original voice actors for the Dominator recorded a brand new set of voice sounds for this whole thing. So there's like 70 different sounds that it can play. But of course, you have to use the app to access all of that, because a lot of it is very particular sounds like decomposer mode or just error user, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so a lot of things are paired with the app. And how it pairs with the app actually is it has Wi-Fi. So it basically emits its own Wi-Fi signature or signal. And then you can kind of play around with the settings of the gun itself on the Wi-Fi app or on the app itself. Now, of course, you can't access the app without owning the gun, because the app itself won't open without having the Wi-Fi on from the gun itself. So you even downloading the app, it just will tell you that you need to sync the Wi-Fi. And also, how you access the password in a sense is you have to find. There is a little like piece of tape in here that shows the signal. Oh, there we go. So let me take out the battery. There's a little piece of tape in here, which is the Dominator's kind of ID code, and that's basically the kind of password that you would use. Now, obviously, showing it to you guys wouldn't matter because you still need the gun to activate the app. So it's a little bit of like a Fallout sort of situation. So if you guys remember like the Fallout Pip-Boy thing, if you had the app, you still can't access the functions because you still need the actual controller. But yeah, so if you notice, one of the issues is already kind of spiking in the sense that I don't think I put this in correctly, but basically, in order for it to turn on, you have to make sure that your hand is on the correct spot. And this is the funny part. Okay, so when it turns on, it's like that. Get that in there. It's on. Let me try to activate it. Okay, so this is the funny part. When I first opened it, I was like, okay, that's awesome. And then it did that, and I was like, why is it not working? And then I realized it's because in the anime, it's not active if the authenticated user's hand isn't on it. So basically, when it's not sensing my hand holding it like hard enough, it won't activate. And I was like a little bit like dumbfounded about it because I was like, oh shoot, now I gotta like hold it really hard. So yeah, it feels comfortable at first, but since it's a little bit heavy, it definitely feels like I don't want to say a real weapon because I haven't held a real gun before, but it definitely feels like a piece of machinery. So let's go ahead and take a look at the transformation. So you pull the trigger halfway to activate the kind of sensing in a sense, and then it'll transform. So it is very interesting. Let me see if I can do this really quick. But yeah, so a lot of really interesting technology in there itself. A lot of nice gearing mechanisms. You can kind of see how it works. There's a lot of spring-loaded parts. Oh, there you go. Okay, so that's the annoying part. Basically, like I said, if your hand isn't directly on it, it'll turn off. And what sucks is if it turns off when it's in Lethal Eliminator, you can't... Setting it down is a little scary because it feels like so fragile, especially with these panels that are just flip outs. So that was a little bit of a WTF moment, but yeah, so let me just transform it back really quick. So you do have to wait for it to run through the whole startup sequence, which I thought was okay, yeah, sure, I guess that's cool, but yeah, alright, transform back. Oh, now it's going to do it again. Okay, yeah. But also what I find is that when you change the users, sometimes certain users won't produce the or like the crime coefficient that is necessary for action. So when I switched it to Kogami, in Kogami as an enforcer, it kept registering as non-lethal or under 100. So basically, it won't do anything because they're not a real problem yet. So basically that, but in this case with Akane, like literally every time I scan it, it basically always says that it's over 100 or over 300. So it's like, all right, you're done, you know. So a little wacky. Oh, actually, okay, this time it went to non-lethal paralyzer. So basically at 100 it's non-lethal, and at 300 it would be lethal eliminator. So yeah, also another big tip is don't tilt the gun. Like this is not, you know, a 45 cal, like, you know, don't be gangster about it. Basically, when it says in the instructions that anything over a certain degree, when you try to transform it, it'll just like kind of break the gun, or it might damage the insides. I haven't tried it myself because I don't really want to try it, but yeah, so that's kind of one thing. Also, another kind of a weird thing on my part is that I kind of wish that it did have light piping for the words Dominator across the side. I think the Replica does have that. And another thing the Replica wins over on the Cerevo one is that the motion of the LEDs are actually a lot more natural on the Replica one versus the Cerevo one, which is very quick in a sense. But yeah, honestly, there's not much to say about it other than it's a really well done piece of gun, I guess. That's pretty much my first impressions on it. If you, like I said, if you want a really nice review of it with all its functions, I would definitely point you in the direction of Actar. He has done a lot of reviews on a lot of different things, and a lot of them are really well done in terms of just production quality. Kind of, but yeah, and he just talks about like a lot of the features, especially with the app, since he pulled it next to each other. There is like a lot of the things in the app are very cool in terms of how you can mess with the gun. If you have the display stand, you can kind of change the timing so it'll transform at certain times, which is really cool. And also it'll kind of go through this cycle of transform every like 30 seconds 5 times, that kind of thing. And then of course you can switch the users, you can play through all like 75 of the soundtracks. Also there's like a camera mode where basically there's a camera in here, and then basically it'll kind of track stuff and it'll sense faces. But yeah, so that's kind of where all the technology money is going. But apparently there's also like 217 LEDs in here, which is kind of apparent because it's like in the dark it gets really bright, and that's like a really cool thing about it. So it definitely is a really nice machine. I wouldn't really say toy or prop just because it's so hefty and it feels nice. There's a lot of metal parts in it. This whole exterior is plastic though, so I wouldn't kind of expect that. But especially with the mixed materials right here, it definitely feels like a nice gun. So that's pretty much it for this little talk about. I tried to keep it short, but it still ended up being like 16 minutes of me just talking about the gun itself. But honestly, overall thoughts, if you really want to invest in one, I would highly recommend it. Knowing that this thing is discontinued is a big thing, especially since if you can't get it anymore, a lot of the times those kind of things go up in prices, especially when it's something like this, where Psycho Pass is such a beloved series, especially the first season, and this is such an important kind of plot point. So it definitely is something if you want to display in your house or in your game room or whatever, and just kind of work on that. But ultimately, in terms of standing it up, there is no way to display it standing up unless you buy their specific stand. Now, I'll probably 3D print one and model it, just because I do think it's annoying that I have to just put it back in the case afterwards. And but yeah, overall, it's pretty nice. I like it a lot. And hopefully that you guys enjoyed this little crazy talk that I had. So that's pretty much it for this one. See you guys next time.